Hey, good morning, everyone. Kyle Nelson coming to you. Welcome to the October 2017 edition of the Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team monthly training. Really excited to have you all with us this morning. Those of you that are tuning in after the fact, welcome. Thanks for catching up with us. And for those just visiting, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off this morning here. I'm going to jump over to our training agenda this morning and kind of go through a couple items and then turn it over to Nathan. So what we're going to check out first is just a quick reminder that the November and December meetings for 2017, we're going to go ahead and cancel those due to proximity to the holidays and all that. We want to just respect your time and allow you to be with family and things, and we'll keep you in the loop if anything comes up activation-wise, but right now it's not looking like we have anything on the books just yet. Jennifer and Nikki are a little tied up this morning with some other duties. They're going to be jumping into the call a little bit later on with their updates. And so just once again, just a quick reminder to all of our members, if you could please go ahead and jump into the training workbook for today. Indicate your availability, whether you're viewing the recording either in person, or either live or after the fact. And also, please be sure to check in and check out so that we can account and document the time that you are spending with us on this glorious Friday. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the man of the hour. Folks, if you've been with COVOST for a while, you'll remember Nathan. He was instrumental in helping to start the Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team and has many years of experience with social media, emergency management, and currently blends those two fields working at Davidson College in North Carolina. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan, who has graciously agreed to come in and be with us today and talk a little bit about Snapchat, SnapMap, and all the great things that we can do with it. So ladies and gentlemen, put your emoji hands together for Nathan.
Good morning, this is Nathan Hoonerwaddle. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right away. Some of you who have known me in the past but haven't seen me in a while might not recognize me at all because I'm not wearing a suit, I'm not wearing a tie, I'm wearing a baseball cap, and I've got some fuzz on my face because I'm kind of on vacation in Florida at the moment. So you don't need to see me, you want to see the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And a quick update on who I am and where I'm at now. I just want to make sure you're seeing my screen before I go too far. All right, I believe you can see my screen. Is that correct, Chris? Can you tell me, confirm that?
You're good.
All right. So I am now, after I left the state of Colorado a few years ago, I went and worked for international nonprofit Samaritan's Purse in Boone, North Carolina, and I remained there for a year or so, and now I work at Davidson College, and I'm a social media specialist, manager of the Davidson College social media presence, and I play on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat for a living. And I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about Snapchat today, and specifically SnapMap. The impetus for today's training was as the Snapchat map came out a few, shall we say, maybe 6 months ago, June, July. Relatively a new tool to Snap. Honestly, not a terribly new tool in concept, as I believe Yik Yak and Yeti and even Instagram and Facebook had played with versions of this kind of a tool. But essentially what the tool does is allows Snapchatters to share their location with each other, friend to friend, if you will, and also person one to many. So you could do one to one, or one to friends, or one to all by taking your post and not only publishing it to your friends, but publishing it to what's called the story portion of Snapchat, which then allows your snap to go out to everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that works and what functions the COVOST can have in monitoring the what is posted publicly, and then we'll talk a little bit about some limitations to that, what you can do to protect your own identity if you're on there, because there are some privacy concerns when it comes to sharing on Snapchat, and talk a little bit about what the future holds. I'm sorry for that. I have two cats in this. I'm at my grandfather's house, and the two cats like to interrupt. So if I disappear, it might be because I'm petting a cat. So, I always want to give a quick heads up. When I'm sharing my screen, I'll be looking at a number of different links and maybe some videos if the screen share works. And when you're doing things live and checking out things live, I always want to give a bit of a heads up that sometimes things that are not fully appropriate show up, and wherever possible, I will try to keep things appropriate. But when you're playing with Snapchat and you're showing things live, you never quite know what might show up on the screen. So just be aware of that. The other piece is I will be the first to admit that I am not an expert when it comes to Snapchat. I use it regularly for the college, but I will admit that it is, of all of the main social media tools, it's one of the ones that is most foreign to me, if you will. So I am always learning. And so if I say something on here that you think is incorrect or needs to be updated, I will not be offended at all if you call me out and say, hey, that's not true anymore, or this thing has changed. We all, when in the world of social media, have to take a always learning approach to these concepts, because what we know today will change tomorrow. So let's carry on. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a link here. And so we can just talk about Snapchat briefly in general sense of the word, and then get specifically into the map. So I don't want to assume that everybody on this call already has a good experience on Snapchat. So let's just talk about what it is generally speaking first. It's essentially, as this is sharing, a smartphone app which allows you to send photos, videos, messages, and drawings that will self-destruct after a few seconds. So that was basically the concept for Snapchat when it first came out many, many years ago. And it has since grown in greatness in popularity, leading in the younger demographics. You can see here a little later on here, main age range is 13 to 24 on the app, and is more popular younger women than men. It has a pretty large following. And one of the questions that is outstanding right now in the social media world is who is going to win out between Snapchat and Instagram. So as we are looking at Snapchat and what we can learn from it, we need to be aware that it's possible that Instagram may eat Snapchat for lunch, and a year from now Snapchat might not exist and Instagram might be the main one. Or it's possible that this Snap Map changes the game, which is kind of what the business model from Snap is trying to do, is bring up this new tool to get people to post more frequently and share more data so that they can compete against Instagram and Facebook. So as of right now, there are currently, according to this article, 150 million people using Snapchat every day, and the app gets an enormous 10 billion views each day. So that gives you the argument that Snap is, no matter whether you come down on the Instagram is taking over versus Snapchat argument, Snapchat is still a very powerful tool. I will say that I believe it was just yesterday that a story came out saying that Snapchat is leading amongst all of the platforms, the youngest demographics, the teenage demographics. When you compare that, though, anecdotally to what I see on the college campus, and I'm at a very elite, high-end liberal arts college campus, the students there, if I ask you, are you on Snapchat or on Instagram, they'll mostly will say both. And I asked them what are they most active on, they're going to say Instagram. So there's a little bit of a competing data out there that's as to which platform is more popular or which platform we should focus our energies on long term. But as of right now, both are in play. So I saw a note from Jennifer in Slack, I'm not sure if she's on right now, but if I need a pause, just let me know. I'm gonna move on down here, and this what you're looking at here is all in the agenda. So if you miss something, if you want to look at any of these links in more detail, they are all here for you. This is a quote that I want to bring up, talking about why would Snapchat want to go into maps, and it's essentially what Snap is trying to do is reinvent itself as a photography app and give people the ability to share photos. And this, in many senses, isn't new. Instagram has done it before. Flickr's done it before. Google still does aspects of this. Facebook Messenger allows you to share your location with each other. So there's an element of what Snap is doing on all sorts of other devices and all sorts of other platforms. But it took off recently in June and July when it first came out. And snaps can be a really good way to see what's happening in a geographical area. I'm trying to find the quote that I wanted to highlight. Let me go back to my document here. Taken together, so here's the quote. These are just a few of the scenes found on Snapchat's newest feature on a recent day. Individually, the scenes aren't so different from the feel-good, time-wasting content that saturates internet media, but taken together, they add up to an unusual set of spatial data, a collection of points on a map representing snippets of real life. So that sentence there is what I want us to focus on as far as we look at what can the COVOST take away from Snapchat specifically. Because one of the limitations that you're going to see from the Snap Map is you're going to be able to see information and data, and you can see that like on Twitter, but what you won't see is you're not going to see who said that, what their bio is or anything. You're just going to see the information that they share. So you have to take that tidbit of information, put it together with all of the other information that's also on Snap to get that full picture of what's actually happening in Puerto Rico, for example. So you're taking little snippets of data, putting them all together to have a full collection of points on a map representing what is really happening. So keep that in mind as we go forward. I am going to go ahead and try to play a YouTube video. And if this does not work in the demonstration, feel free to click on it later.
What should we do now? I don't know. Let's see what's going on.
But this is the video that Snap issued to introduce Snapchat to the world. So Snapchat Maps.
Magic. That's cool. Looks like everyone's at a show. We haven't started yet. Let's go.
So that was the introductory video, and it's very short, 45 seconds, that rocked the world back in June, July. And immediately the reaction was actually fairly negative in the sense that people were quite concerned about privacy concerns. And how much is this actually going to show and reveal from my privacy life? And so one of the things that came up, here's a rather interesting take a look. It's actually from the UK. And let me get rid of all these extra things that are showing up first.
Hey, Nathan, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay. So it's Jennifer. I'm sorry I had a meeting that ran late, but I just want to let you guys know I was here. I apologize.
Welcome, Jennifer. Is there anything you'd like to share before we keep going?
No, you go ahead with your presentation, and I will just do a quick little thing at the end after you're done, and Nikki will give her her little brief out at the end as well. So you go ahead.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, so this video here is received over 28 million views, which should give some credence to the reach that it received. And essentially what the video is saying, I'm not going to play it all in here, but it's this mother who's talking to her daughter, I believe, and explaining and being very concerned about how much the daughter is going to be sharing of her privacy to others, and how big of a concern that's going to be.
Called Stalk Your Friends. So what it does is, see, I'm on camera on Snapchat. If I zoom out, it goes to the map of the world. So this is Caius's phone. We're in Christchurch. We're on the edge. Luckily, we're on ghost mode, so other people can't see us. Only we can see ourselves. But we can still stalk everyone else. So if I zoom really far out, I can see all of the friends that he has on Snapchat. When someone's in a car.
And you can see exactly what they're doing.
You can see what they're doing. So
that's the bit that I find most shocking.
This is really like when I didn't know about it. Snapchat automatically updated me, and I wasn't aware that it was on, meaning that people in that moment could see what I was doing. Until my friend Alex said, "Have you got Snap Maps?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Oh, it's a new thing where you can like stalk your friends and see what they're doing." So I went onto it, and I could see that my friend Leah was listening to music. Someone else was sleeping.
So what would be the advice to any parents then?
The advice would be to make sure that your children are on ghost mode, because it's really dangerous. And because me and Kiki are quite safe anyway, because we only really have friends on Snapchat.
So what's most creepy for me about the whole thing is that they're saying it's a way of just your friends staying in touch with you. Friends who are a bit paranoid about friends, you can see if kids are doing things or saying they're doing things.
It's because they said it could be.
So I'll let you watch the rest of that video. Basically, though, this is one of the main reactions to this tool is a major privacy concern. And Snapchat tried to respond quite quickly to say, well, not everything that's said in this video is true. Here's how the tool actually works. And we'll look at that, a little bit of how that actually works in just a second. But again, to what Snapchat tries to explain is you have the option, once you turn the map on, to share your location with friends who already follow you, or a select group of friends, or if you take a snap, you could share it to the world if you choose to, but you don't have to. That's the argument that Snap is going to make. And what you can judge for yourself whether you trust Snap in limiting the reach of your data in that way. But what ended up happening is during Hurricane Harvey and Maria and Irma, people began to see the attitude shifted a little bit in the media and the public opinion, where it went from, we got this huge privacy concern, to, wow, look what we can do, and look how much we can see from a disaster perspective. So for instance, here's a look at a video from Hurricane Maria. So you can see this article is all about social media capturing Hurricane Maria's devastation, and you've got your typical tweets in here and some Instagram posts, etc., which is standard what we're used to seeing, right? But if you keep going down, here now we have Snapchat. You can see here the wind blowing across the parking lot there. Obviously that wasn't terribly dramatic, just an example. Here's some more. Someone in her basement. See if I can get the audio going. Doesn't appear to have audio playing. But you can see here that these are just real life examples, snippets of images from the scene. And the neat thing about Snap is these are going to be timely. They're going to be posted within the last 24 hours. So you know, if you watched it, you know this was actually happening about 24 hours ago, or even earlier than that. So those are the type of scenes that people began to see on social media on Snapchat, which then led to a rise in media attention to the Snap Map. And there's a whole host of articles that you can find out there now that talk about Snap and what it was doing for Hurricane Harvey. And so you can read a whole ton of them. I'm not going to click on all these because you can do that on your own time and you have all these links available to you. But a couple things. Congressman Kevin McCarthy wrote an article about confronting disaster, and he even included in that article, he's the majority leader of the House of Representatives in Congress, and he even noted that Snapchat users seamlessly converted the Snap Map feature to a down-to-the-block chronicler of Harvey's destruction and local responses. So I bring that in just to show that the reach and awareness of Snap Maps has reached all the way up to the highest offices in Washington. So there should be some buy-in, if you will, when it comes to talking about why we should be monitoring these channels. Miami Herald ended up mentioning, and I believe they're quoting the Washington Post, that during Hurricane Harvey, a curated collection of photos and videos received over 250,000 to 300,000 submissions in 86 hours just on Snapchat. So that's 250,000 to 300,000 submissions. That's a lot of data to sort through, and it is now available to us to be able to sort through that Snap Map. A couple quotes I want to pull out from a Wired story that covered the same coverage from Hurricane Harvey. Video snaps taken together conveyed more than a string of facts or a glimpse of surroundings. They conveyed a range of emotions: horror, shock, anger, loss, sadness, and in small, sweet moments, joy. They held a collective human story about the experience. Snap Map introduces context to those stories and thus becomes a real-time visual newspaper, a framework for understanding the time and place of our chatter. The hyper-local news doesn't have headlines, but it's there if you know the locality for which you search. With Snap Map, the company has created a news program curated not just by my personal contacts, but also by geographic location. So there's a lot in that Wired article that I want to kind of unpack. Again, this goes back to what I was talking earlier, that these snaps, they're missing some data, so you don't know who sent them. But if you take the snaps as a collective, it can give you a broad look at the conditions on the ground that then the COVOST could forward on to the PIO, to the EOC, however you're connected in, to give a broad picture of what things look like. The negative to that is, let's say you do get someone on Snap that puts a Snap Map up that says, I need help. You can grab that and forward it on. You can forward on the approximate location as to where that snap came from. But unless you are already connected with that individual on Snap, you don't know who that person actually is. You don't have a way to private message them or send them a response. The only way that you can really send them a response is to send somebody to that geographic location and go find them. So it's great that we know that someone said something and we know approximately where they said it, but we can't send that person a message to say, hang tight, rescue will be there in 2 hours. We have to send the rescue there and hope that they're still there at that point. The next piece here, the other piece I just want to unpack, and I know I've said this before, but I want to emphasize it. If you are an agency, it's really important for you to develop a following on Snap, because if you develop that personal contact, you'll be able to see what's happening, what your followers are saying. If you don't see them, then you're dependent upon the geographic sharing location in order to see anything. And then you're, like we just discussed, if you're dependent on the geographic location, you don't actually get to understand who said what. You just get to know that someone said something in this location. Moving on, continue after Harvey, Irma came and Maria came, and there's just more stories about how Snapchat is being used during these disasters. And actually Snapchat came up as one of the top 11 apps to use to be in the know, if you will, before Hurricane Irma hit. That was shared by the Miami Herald, so people were recognizing that this is a tool people can use. It's actually been used for many other events. So Snap curates these stories not just for disasters, but for any big event. So solar eclipse was a good example of that. I'll go ahead and click on here so you can see some examples. So as you can see on this little map, each one of these action emojis, if you will, they are all looking at the sun. And if you had this open on your Snap map, you'd be able to click on each one of these people, and you would then be able to see what they're sharing. But you only get to see these people if you're actually following them, they're following you. If you're not actually following them, you're not going to see the action emoji. What you'll see is a heat map. And if you click on that heat map, you'll be able to see the snap, but you won't know who sent it. So before I move on into kind of the practical training, I just want to emphasize the Snap privacy piece once more, because I'm going to ask you all who are participating in this call to go ahead and find me on Snap, and if you feel comfortable, to activate your Snap map. But before I do that, I want to make sure you understand the security concerns. Again, big concerns started to come out back in June, July, when the app first was put forth. And because you're sharing actual locations with amazing accuracy, it's a concern. And when we talk about amazing accuracy, you could say that Nathan Hoonerwaddle is in Florida today, and I could show that on a map. And that gives you some data about me, but not a ton. What Snap is doing, allowing this to do, you can zoom in onto that map, and we'll show this, almost to the street address. It's a little fuzzy when you get down to that level, but you can identify where someone is within a few hundred feet almost. And that's where some of the privacy concerns can come in. Again, tracking its technology itself is not unique. Uber's doing it, Google's doing it, all these people have these things. So it's just a question of, are you using this tool responsibly, and what can you do to use it safely? That Snapchat has a ghost mode, meaning that you can be on the map watching and observing what other people are saying while not sharing your own location. That's one tool that you can take advantage of, and I'll show you how to turn that on. The other piece, though, is if you are in ghost mode and you still share a snap to the Our Story function, you're still sharing it with the world. And so you really have to know what you're doing to make sure you understand your privacy settings and are you being safe. So when you get a chance, read through some of these articles to understand the difference between posting on the Snap map directly versus posting on the story, going into ghost mode, etc. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and do the practical demonstration. And I do want to make sure you're aware, the Snapchat actually has some of the best support user documents I have seen. Some time, bear with me as it opens. You can learn all about these Snapchat stories and maps right on Snap. This is support.snapchat.com. Just click through these and you can read all about it. So you go in here, I want to learn about the Snap map, and here you go. So open the Snap map, you go to your camera, put your fingers in together, and you pinch and zoom, like you're pinching in a photo. You then select who gets to see what. And when you share to your story, it also goes on the map. So you can select a number of different things. Only the people you choose can see your location. Or if you share it on our story map, it will show regardless of what you've chosen for your privacy settings. So if you get lost or need help, just spend some time at support.snapchat.com and you'll be able to understand how it works from there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try to share just my my iPhone screen. So bear with me while I make a switch here. All right, so I believe you can see my screen here.
We see your screen.
Thank you, thank you. So I'm going to go move over to Snapchat. Snapchat now opens up. I see Jennifer's multitasking because I just got her email. Congratulations, Jennifer.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I enjoy getting those emails still, by the way. Well done.
Oh, good to know.
So Snapchat now is trying to invent itself as a camera app. So actually when you open Snap, you will see immediately your camera. And you can't, it is my camera here because you can see things. Look at that mirrored image. That's kind of cool. But if you take your fingers and you pinch in, you open up the map. Now you can see right now that I am here in Florida. This is what you're seeing right now. I'm actually on the Davidson College Snap account, and I'm only going to stay in here temporarily because of some of the privacy issues. But each one of these people that you see on my screen are people that Davidson College has connected with. So they are people that have added Davidson College, and there are people that Davidson College has added back. So we're able to actually see who they are and be able to share data. So if I wanted to go in and find our college campus, we're just north of Charlotte. I can come down here, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and I can get pretty granular as to where people are at. And as I get really close to campus, now I'm breaking it down by dorm room. Or not by dorm room, but by dorm. So you can see how specific it can get as to where, not only do you know somebody's on campus, but you know where on campus they are. I'm not going to go ahead and click on any of these because one of the things that you have to realize when you are doing this, if I clicked on any of these individuals and actually looked at their Snap, they're going to get an alert that says Davidson College, or not an alert, it'll just see it, be able to see it within their Snap feed that Davidson College looked at their video. And let's say it was something questionable that we wanted to escalate like we do in the COVOST process. I take a screenshot, I escalate it, I don't think anything of it. They get a notice on their end that Davidson College just screenshotted them. So that could be totally innocuous, or it could lead to questions as to why is the college monitoring or looking at my snaps, etc. So even though they've given access to the college to be able to look at it, they may not appreciate if you've taken a screenshot of whatever that piece of content is. So you have to keep that in mind as you're monitoring. It's not as simple as just finding the piece of content and screenshotting it. You might have to be a little more creative if you're trying to be anonymous. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of my Davidson College account. I wanted to make sure you knew that from an agency perspective, let's say I am not active on Snap, but I just want to be monitoring. You're not going to see all of these people because you're not actually connected to them. All that you are going to see are these hotspots. So here's a hotspot right now in Pennsylvania. It looks like this one is at Penn State. So you'll be able to see this hotspot, but you're not going to be able to actually know who posted what. So you'll be able to see that something was posted in Krumren University Park. You just don't know anything about who posted these things. So if you look at this, there's no identifying information on here that says the name, or there's no link that you can link back to, but you can still see the content. All right, I'm going to go ahead and change my accounts to my personal account. And I would love it if those of you who want to play along would find me on Snapchat. My Snap handle is NA Greenerwaddle. I put it in the Skype room. And find me and see if you can't take a screenshot of my location and share that into the training room to show that you've mastered how to use the map tool. So stand by while I switch accounts.
So Nathan, while you're making the switch over, quick question from one of our members.
Yes.
We're wondering if there's any way to monitor Snapchat outside of using the app on a smartphone or a tablet. I know for some folks, they prefer the interface of like a laptop or a desktop. Is there any way to monitor that outside of the mobile platforms?
To my knowledge, there is not. Snapchat and Instagram are two of the most locked down platforms when it comes to API access and ability to look at things outside of the platform. I would love to be corrected on that, but to my knowledge, that is the case. That you have to have the app. Now, what you could do is something like what I'm doing right now, where I am mirroring my device on my computer so that I can see things on a bigger screen. That might be a solution that works for you. Are there any other questions?
No other questions that I see at this time. So folks that are listening live, please be sure to drop any of those questions in the live chat on the YouTube link or in the training channel on Slack as well, and we'll get those relayed to Nathan.
I like your little emoticon, Nathan.
There you go. So I did create this little emoticon. If you're not familiar, that's you can create those, and Snap has allows you to bring that in, and that is you can dress it up. You can go bald if you want. You can have freckles. You can whatever skin tone works. Personalize it to who you want.
And that's what you see on that Snap map, correct, Nathan? Yeah, when you see the little people standing there.
And then yeah, that image will be what shows up on the Snap map. So let's show that. So I'm now again. This is how you use the tool. You start from scratch. You click on your Snapchat app. It opens up into the camera. You pinch and zoom, and now you see yourself. So this here is my Bitmoji. I'm wearing the suit and the facial hair, and then right next to me is my other phone, which is Davidson College. Now, you might think, well, this is interesting. Davidson College, I just switched accounts, right? So why is Davidson College still showing up here? Because I'm no longer logged in as Davidson College. It's still showing up here because your digital presence, if you will remain there for a few hours until Snap deems it irrelevant, and eventually you'll drop off. But for a few hours, will remain there. So as you can see, in Florida, I don't have a lot of friends. So I don't have any other Bitmojis showing up. So if you don't have friends on Snap, personally or professionally with your organization, you're not going to see other people. So you can note right away the big difference between this map and the Davidson College map. So if you're an agency and you want to be involved in checking out what your people who are really active in your community are saying, you really need to develop an audience and engage that audience day to day. So then this Snap map will be even more useful to you. So I can see that most of my peeps right now are here in Denver. And let's see, who is, I don't want to out anybody's location inadvertently. So who is anybody on the call? The lady in Denver right at the center? Probably watching on YouTube, so they can't comment. But if I zoomed in on here close enough, I would be able to out your specific location. And again, I don't want to do that without your specific permission, so I'm not going to do that publicly right on here. But let's go into, I'll use myself as an example.
Hey, Nathan?
Yes.
Just said Chris chime in down at Denver Tech Center. He should be on the map.
Denver Tech Center? All right, let's go down there. He's okay with sharing his location?
Yes, in the live chat on YouTube, he gave the thumbs up.
All right, so right now I'm going all the way down. So it appears that he is next to I-25 and 285, Happening Place. This is as far as I can go. So close to South Holly Place, and I can't make out exactly where he's at there, but if I get onto Google Maps, I could probably make out what that building was, right next to the Veranda High Point Apartments. So that's as granular as you can get with your location. And then you click on his name, and now I know it's him. Does that make sense? And if he's had any recent snaps, then your conversation with them, it'll show up there. Now notice, if I want to see if he said anything, I'm going to have to click on the heat map here, and it might be him, it might not be him. I'm guessing that's not him, but I don't know. Maybe he likes dogs and cats. So that's what's happening nearby him in that area. You can see that's light blue. And so there's only one snap there, and there's two here, and it just gives you an idea of what's going on. If you zoom out, let's go to something a little more popular. Denver seems a little on the quiet side right now. Maybe we'll see what's up here. This is the airport. So now you can see what people are sharing at the airport. So if you're DIA, you probably want to be watching this every day just to see what people are saying. Apparently the equestrian team is at the airport. So you can see how you get some really neat visual. I mean, how cool is that to be able to see information straight from your trains, straight from inside the concourses. But what we don't know is who posted this, who they are, how I can reach back to them. You're just getting this general awareness as to what the conditions are like. And you can see this was posted 4 hours ago. And you just never know what's going to show up. It's fascinating. You can sit here all day and watching these snaps. One new thing that literally just came out in the last week is what's called Snapchat location cards. If I swiped up at Denver, now I can actually see other locations, and I can click on other items here to order an Uber and do a whole bunch of other things. So there's new functionalities that are being built into this tool. So what I'd like to do, if you haven't done it already, is go find me. Once you've accepted, send me a friend request. And if you haven't sent me one, maybe somebody else on the COVOST team you can find. And just do a screenshot just to show that you've been able to find them. I'm over in Florida, on the Panhandle, in that area. And you can see that's as close as I can get. One of the rather interesting things when people are concerned about privacy is teenagers will tell their parents, I'm at X location. Another person could say, well, I just opened up your Snap app and you're not there. And so some interesting scenarios have resulted from that kind of information being made public. And there's a couple examples that are in the training document. I'm going to zoom out again here and see if I can give you a real-time example of how this might be used in crisis monitoring. I can zoom in here and look at this story here. It's kind of hard to see, but that's called protesting racism. So what this is a curated story, an event that Snapchat deemed worthy enough to create a story. Typically, it's either because it's a trending news topic, or it's because there's so much data in that region that it justifies its own specific story. So I can click on this and view the reactions to University of Florida students and community members to the speech last night of the alt-right figurehead who spoke there. Before I click on that, though, I want you to realize that what you're going to see is not necessarily what everybody put out. You're going to see what Snapchat's decided is worthy for your eyes. So they have an algorithm, they have curators, and that algorithm and curators are taking data that they're receiving and putting forth what they think you need to see. So this is what that looks like. I'm not sure if we're going to get any audio. I don't think the audio is going to play because my phone is plugged into my computer to make this stuff happen. But here you can see what was actually happening at the campus during that protest or the event that made national headlines. Now, hopefully you'll see that there's a great value in monitoring this platform so that you can get this real-time data. So that's how that works. So when you post to your story, it goes into this piece of information right there. It looks like actually a new story just popped up. So Here's another one. That's one of the other pieces that you have to keep in mind as a VOST. Depending on how much content is being shared, you may need to assign 1 or 2 people to different geographic locations so that you can cover all the data that's going to come out. So if you're looking at Harvey, that's a lot of locations. But one of the challenges is to identify what locations are you going to monitor, what's more important than other locations. The other piece to think about is in our normal Snapchat or our normal VOST procedure, we would take a screenshot of something that needs to be escalated. Well, if I take a screenshot of this, it's unclear to me, but it's possible that the end user might get a screen grab. And so that screen grab is going to show that it was screen grabbed by you and your account. You might not want these people to know that you took that screenshot. So you might need to get a little more creative in how you get a screenshot. So, for example, what I'm doing right now, I have my phone plugged into my computer. I have an iPhone and an iMac, and I'm running QuickTime, and QuickTime is able to record what's happening on my phone. So I can get a real-time, accurate, full video snapshot of what's going on here without actually alerting anybody or tipping them off that I've taken a look at what they're tweeting or what they're snapping, sorry.
Nathan, could you use something like a snipping tool if you have that up on your computer, like you have it linked? Like
so if you had a snipping tool, you could take a screenshot. That would be just fine, assuming though you have the setup that I have set up where you're mirroring your phone on your computer.
But that wouldn't notify the person if you use the snipping tool, correct? Because you're not taking a picture from your phone.
What's going to notify is if you take a screen grab right on your phone. That's what will notify. And I believe the newest iPhone, I can't recall if it's going to be the 10 or the 8, or one, and someone can correct me, but one of those actually has technology to do a video screen grab. And so how that's going to interplay with Snapchat, I don't know yet. But there will be tools to be able to do a video screen grab on your iPhone device here shortly if it's not already there.
I know the 10 are including like virtual reality abilities, so it might be the 10.
It may be. So it's almost been an hour. So I'm going to go back to my document. I'm going to go ahead and change my screen here. If I can recall how to do that. And actually, before I do that, let's make sure that I've accepted anybody who's added me. Cindy Von Felt, we're adding you back. Congratulations. Secretly, I'm only leading this training so I increase my Snap following. That's all my true desire.
Okay, well, I'll follow you then, Nathan.
There you go. Appreciate it. All right, so let's go back to our training document. And if you missed any of this training or the instructions on how to do it, I've got kind of a step-by-step of what to do as far as the practical is concerned. But here's my takeaways as a kind of wrap up. SnapMap can be a powerful crowdsourcing tool, geosourcing intelligence tool, but it has limitations. What's good is that it provides a treasure trove of information with real-time updates and data. It you are able to access and see other users if you actually are following them and they're following you. So if you're an agency or you work for an agency and you have access to their account and they've done a good job of developing their following, thank you, Jennifer, received your request. Develop your following, then you're going to be able to engage a lot better with that community. Whether or not, though, you follow them or don't, Snapchat will still be able to, Map will still give you insight into the younger demographic and how they're responding to a disaster, to a crisis, to whatever your situation is. The limitations are, there's really no good way to identify a specific user unless you're already following them. And it creates a bit of a challenge if you need to report back to somebody, if you need to go rescue them, or if you need to fact check the information they shared. It's really hard to do unless you have a connection with them already. What you have to be ready to do is send somebody out to their location, or let's take this back to the VOST. The VOST would capture that information and send it on to the responding agency. The responding agency would then have to decide whether or not to deploy someone to that location to respond to whatever that piece of content was. The other piece, unlike Twitter, you can't search for the text, so you can't search for help or for whatever it is, I need water, to limit what's happening in that geographical area. You literally have to go through the entire geographical region to see what everyone is saying in order to get a good picture. You can't isolate key terms to just see who's sharing crisis-related content on Snapchat versus party-related content. So you have to be willing to sit through and filter through all the noise to get to the real data that you're interested in. And finally, the other piece to think about is the content you see. Twitter, if you do a search, you're going to get everything that Twitter has. Snapchat's map, you might not get everything that everyone's put out there because of the algorithms and the curators. There's no guarantee that you're actually seeing the full picture. And any time that there's a filter that your company is putting over your ability to see the raw data, you should know that at some level there's a filter being put in place, and you just need to have that in the back of your head to be aware of. A couple tips for workflow: if you're actually using this in a COVOST, assign a volunteer or volunteers to sort through that Snapchat map specifically. If this is a large region, you may need to assign more than one people to a geographical area, because you could have quite a lot of data happening in one region, especially if it's something as big as Harvey. You're going to need a lot of people. And most likely you're just going to need to say, no, we're going to isolate this specific apartment complex or this stadium or this shelter to see what people are saying around this specific region. So you prioritize the areas that you want to keep an eye on. Because if you don't do that, you're just going to be inundated. There's no way for you to take the 300,000 posts that happened during Harvey and sort them in an easy way, other than to just assign a block, a square block, or 2 blocks to a person or persons. Once you find data, just like we do with any other COVOST activation, you find that and you filter it up the chain in the escalation process, just keeping in mind that if it's something that you don't want the other person to take a snap at, they may, and again, I don't know for certain if they will. I do know that if they're following you and you're following them and you take a screen grab of their content, they will see that. If you take a screen grab of somebody's content that you don't know, I don't know if they're going to be able to see that you took that screen grab or not, but you should act as though they will, just to be on the safe side. And the other difference that SnapMap has when it comes to escalating content is you're going to want to figure out how to use a video capturing service to grab the full snap as opposed to just a snippet of that snap. And I put in here, and this link here talks about how I'm using my iPhone and my iPad or my computer to grab that full recording. And I'm sure there are solutions for Android as well. I just didn't have time to do that today.
Hey Nathan, one quick piece on the notifications.
Yes. Say that again.
I just wanted to relay a couple comments that some of our members kind of contributed here. Holly said that when you're taking a screenshot of someone, so like their Bitmoji on the map, they won't get a notification, but they will receive a notification if you're taking a screenshot of their SnapMap stories that they're putting together.
That is correct.
And then Chris also relayed something, and he took a screenshot and he put this in the training channel on Slack, but it actually popped up a notification on Chris's side that you were screen recording, actually. So apparently Snapchat does have a way to detect that you were doing some screen recording when you were.
Well, there you go.
Chris opened up your guys' chat. It's like, hey, Nathan screen recording. So
that goes back to Jennifer's question as to whether you could use a snip clip or something, and it's quite possible. That's pretty sophisticated technology that Snap is able to reach back through my phone, through the lightning cable into my iMac, be able to know that I'm recording. That's pretty impressive. I'm sure it's probably simpler than that, but to my mind, that sounds pretty impressive. So that just goes to show, keep in mind, if it's truly something that needs to remain anonymous or you want to remain anonymous, maybe, take another phone and video screen your phone. I'm not quite sure what the solution would be at that point, but take a picture of your phone instead of a screen grab of your phone. If you're an actual agency or representing someone, and I know obviously the COVOST, you're not representing the agency specific, but I know there are people on this call that work for agencies. a couple tips that you have is actively be active on Snap so that your snaps show up in the location stories. That's going to be the number one thing, is to put your narrative, your message out there so people see that. You can also create your own geographically based story, and I did not focus a lot of time on that because that's not the purpose of this training. But each Snapchat user can create 3 of their own custom stories, and one of the custom story options is a geo-targeted story. And so you can create that story, and then other users who are in that geographical area can post to it. And when they do that, you're still limited a little bit as to who posted it and what you can do to contact them back. But you will be able to download that full story. So you don't have to do any sort of video tricks like I'm doing right now. But you can download the entire story to your phone and share it to wherever you need it to be shared. So if you give, one of the things, a trend in social media right now is to not just be worried about content is king, you got to put content out there, but it's also about creating the experience for the end user so that they are talking about you. So if you know that you have a shelter and that you're managing that shelter and you're going to have 500 people showing up at that shelter, create the Hurricane Harvey shelter number 35 geo-target story, and then when people who want to post to Snap are about to post and they're in that geographical area, they'll see an option to post to your story specifically, and that gives you an opportunity to be able to see what they're saying and to have some control over the messaging. Finally, for agencies, be prepared to send someone to an area if content is found that requires a response, because it might not be very simple to find out who said what and how to reach them. You might physically have to send a responder to that region. So I've already gone over 12 o'clock, and I know that Jennifer and Nikki and others have other things to share. So I will leave this at that point. I'm available on Twitter at Hoonerwaddle and on Snaps. So feel free to play with me, send me snaps back and forth, ask questions, and I'm here to help as much as I can. Are there any other questions I should answer before I mute myself?
Hey, Nathan, I'm not seeing anything else in the live chat. So folks, if you want to follow up with Nathan here, if you're viewing the recording or if you think of something after viewing the live broadcast here, go ahead and you can connect with Nathan in the COVOST Slack group as well. So Nathan, I just want to give you huge thanks for coming on and sharing on Snapchat and SnapMap. It was a pleasure having you back.
Pleasure, Don. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. That was very eye-opening. I play with Snapchat a lot, but I haven't played with the map part yet, and that was very enlightening. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. I think since we're done with the presentation, Mickey and I both had a meeting this morning that ran a little bit late, so I'm going to go ahead and let her give you guys the update, I guess, for the wind down on the Puerto Rico activation request, and then I'll go ahead and close off. And just want to thank you again for the presentation, Nathan, and I'll turn this over to Mickey.
Hi, team. Just wanted to give you just a follow-up on the Puerto Rico mission request. So it is something that we haven't done in the past and kind of went outside of our normal operating procedures at the very end. But just a quick wrap-up. Call on early Saturday morning asking if COVOST would be available to support Puerto Rico with VOST activities, but the person requesting didn't know what VOST did and didn't know how to order us. So we worked through that, and FEMA was able to put in an emergency management assistance compact on behalf of Puerto Rico. That took about another week for Puerto Rico to review, and they decided that the timing wasn't right for them and that they didn't have enough public information or folks in Puerto Rico that could use the information appropriately. So they decided to, on their end, deny the request for the activation. So then it went into a different mode, and FEMA asked if we could instead support the National Resource Coordination Center and their activities there. Typically, and according to our SOPs and handbook, we do not support federal agencies. But in this case, because of the numerous hurricanes and impact to the nation regarding back-to-back disasters, we did say that we were interested and would do everything we could in order to support that. In the end, unfortunately, FEMA wasn't able to pull together the contracting or agreements they needed on their end. We spent several weeks going back and forth with them. By the time we got those contracts in place, they felt that many other humanitarian organizations who had been mapping for them from the beginning of Harvey and through Maria were providing what they needed. So they had every day at 2 o'clock a call with all the agencies sharing updates on maps that were created, other information that was being pulled and provided and reporting to FEMA. And so they felt that at that point they had the different types of information they needed and began embarking on a hackathon instead. And so they went ahead and stood down the mission. The good thing is that in working with Oregon, we have a team that we think can come together and meet a large national request if needed. So Oregon has about 90 members. We have 60 members. The initial request was for 30 days of 12-hour shifts. And so we really felt we needed at least 2 states, if not 3 or 4, to meet that request. So we didn't burn you all out and take advantage of all of your time. So we have the process in place now. We're hoping that if we get asked again to support, another Puerto Rico or a large event, that we can do that faster. Our process, and we're ready to go. We will just need that requesting agency to finalize the request so we can stand up faster. But so we have that, and a different piece of this that was demonstrated also is sometimes during these requests, so they usually come through me for approval and to make sure that we have the ability to meet their needs. And then Jennifer takes off running with the management of the team. In this case, you saw that we instead had myself lead that effort so that Jennifer could complete some agency deadlined products. So every once in a while, not often, those division needs will take a priority, and so then you'll get the second team or second round team, I guess, to come in and fill in until Jennifer can pop back into the team. But it's just part of our resiliency, redundancy planning. But thank you all for being able to stay on top of that and be willing to support. And we'll see what comes forward and where COVOST leads us and how we work together with our Oregon teammates and any other teams if we need to do a very large activation. Does anyone have any questions about that possible mission that took place or didn't take place? All right, if you do, just give Jennifer a call or myself a call, or shoot us something on Slack. We're happy to share the specifics of how EMAC works or how any of that those mission assignments work anytime. We're happy to share all those details with anyone who's interested. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you, Nikki. There was a lot of work she did behind the scenes on that, so I thank her for that. There was no way I was going to be able to do all the required duties for COVOST and handle my work-related, the products that I had to get out to. So I thank her for standing in and taking over that, because there's no way I would have had time to do both. So just let you guys know you got 2 very strong leaders, and if you have any questions, obviously you can ask either one of us. I think I'll just close it off. I do have 2 more members. I just got approval today from the our background check agency that we have 2 more members that have passed the background check. So I will be onboarding them here shortly in the next week or so. We do not have any more meetings for 2017, so this was our last meeting for 2017. I want to thank all of you guys for your dedication, your commitment to this team. We are getting it back running and going really well with all these trainings. And so I think it's important that we have, you know, November and December off, with the third Friday of the month being really close to the holidays. So I think it's just best for us to kind of close things off here in October and let you guys enjoy the holiday season. And then we'll reconvene in January. Meantime, since you do have a couple of months off now, if you could just be thinking about topics, anything you want to be trained on for next year, that way Kyle and I can get together and kind of maybe make a plan for next year. If there's any hot topics or any products that you would like to look more in depth at, that way we can get those covered. I know we did have a couple of requests for a follow-up with Reddit. I'm sure the Snap Maps and Snapchat is probably going to be another request that we may want to do a follow-up with later again, maybe especially if we can have some experience with one at an activation. But if you have any ideas, please just email me. You can send me something on Slack, whatever the easiest way is for you to contact me. Let me know if you have some ideas, because I would like to get those addressed for next year. But I think that's just about it. And I hope you guys have a really great rest of your day and enjoy your time off here from COVOST. And just again, thank you so much for your commitment and dedication to this team. And we'll be off and running again in January. I will close that off. And Kyle, I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. I wanted to echo a lot of your comments there. Just huge thanks to everyone on the team, both the veteran members and those that are just coming on board. It would not be as dynamic of a team as it was without all of you and the expertise that you bring in. And I really, from the training side of the house, want to give a huge thank you to Nathan Hoonerwaddle, Alicia King, Jeff Donaldson, and Scott Reuter for coming on and jumping in and contributing and sharing their knowledge and expertise across a variety of platforms and studies and things. So big thanks to you all. And it's been a true pleasure working alongside Jennifer and Mickey and all of you, as well as the training coordinator here for COVOST. So as Jennifer said, have a great rest of your day here. Have a great rest of 2017. We'll see you on the flip side in 2018. So with that, go ahead and close it out. Kyle Nelson, COVOST training coordinator, signing off.